Recreation Advisory Commission. We will start with our roll call. Position 1, Carrie Stuckey, that's me. Position 2 and 3 are currently vacant. Position 4,
Here.
Position 5, Tom Jones.
Here.
Position 6, Kim Ford. Here. Position 7, Vicky Biggs.
Here.
And it looks like Callie and Councilmember Marshall are absent today. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Did we have any changes to be made to the agenda or questions? Can you hear me now? No? How about now? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, the agenda is approved. How about the approval for the minutes of our meeting on August 11th? Did we have any questions or changes to be made?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Are we ready to vote on that? Okay, all in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. All right, item number 4, public comment. During this time, citizens may comment on subjects of interest not on the agenda. To ensure comments are recorded properly, state your name clearly. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes to ensure maximum participation during the 15-minute time frame allotted for the item. Public comment may also be submitted online at our website at least 2 business days in advance of an advisory board meeting. So did we have anyone here to make public comment for an item not on the agenda?
Is this where I raise my hand? Yes.
Okay, is it for pickleball?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be an agenda item. We'll get to that next. Okay. Did we have any other public comments emailed to us? Okay. All right, we will go ahead and move on to our agenda items then. Our first agenda item is our pickleball update. Do we want to go ahead and make comment first?
You want to hear the public comment first?
Do we want to take public comment first for that?
Let me give you a quick update on where the pickleball project is, and then maybe Tom or Eric can talk about the pickleball item from the subcommittee. They can introduce that, and then if you want, open it up to public comment. So for the Fort Nugent pickleball project, the site development permit for the pickleball courts have been completed, and that permit intake fee was paid 2 weeks ago. We did meet with the athletics subcommittee, and one of the discussion items that we had on the agenda for them was meeting with the new North Whidbey Pickleball Association to talk about some of their proposals for temporary pickleball setups in parks and what that might look like. So Eric or Tom, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll go
And
ahead.
I can pull up whatever, I can pull up any of the documents that you wanted to show, Tom.
I'll go ahead and just kind of give some of our notes from that section of our subcommittee. Darren came and joined us, and we had conversation about what could we do in the interim for the pickleball community. Were there options available? And so we were looking at essentially painting lines potentially on one of the existing courts that we already have, whether that be at Windjammer or another site, and what it would take in order to make that feasible and functional as a intermediary really until we can get a greater project done. So a lot of the conversation came around what would be needed. Would we need barriers between courts if we did like the Windjammer site, between the 2 basketball courts? How would that function just as far as sharing that amenity? And then things like what could we do for temporary netting as opposed to fixed in-ground netting, knowing this would be sort of a shared amenity, and scheduling and all of those things that would be the necessary logistical items for that. And that's really where the conversation centered around. We had conversations about a few other possibilities out there. There was some conversation, of course, about Sumner because there's existing tennis courts there. We had a conversation about Coochie Park. And then we talked a little bit about Fort Nugent Park as well with the basketball court that's up there. So the conversation was essentially what can be done now, what's available, what resources could a pickleball association or the community bring, and what could the city offer as well. Really, a collaborative conversation, trying to meet a need, knowing that we're not going to have the full-term solution yet, but what could be done by way of provision as well as compromise. And I think that's really where we kind of ended, except with the fact that we wanted to have some more, another open house conversation as well, now that we kind of have our plan gone to permit with our contractor, knowing that we'll have more information as far as what's on the horizon, a better idea of costs, and hopefully a better target then to think about fundraising from the community, grant writing, and all of that stuff as the next cycle comes out. Is there anything I missed, Tom?
I don't think so. As a follow-up to that, after that meeting, Darren and I went out to Coochie Park along with Eric from the Parks Maintenance Department, and determined that that court is too small to do anything with. Plus, it's pretty close to homes, and there might be noise complaints. So, great park. It would be a great location. I'm sure the pickleball people would love it, but it just won't do the trick. Subsequent to that, Darren and I went up to Fort Nugent, and I was pretty skeptical about that because I didn't think the court was large enough there either. But we paced it off, actually marked it off with a tape. It can accommodate 3 courts. However, if we're going to put in permanent nets and posts, then the baskets would have to go, and it'd have to become a pickleball-only facility. So I'm sure Darren and his folks probably address that. I don't have anything else to say. I'd like to hear what the pickleball community has to say.
Okay. At this time, we will go ahead and take public comment from anyone here to talk about pickleball.
Good morning. As you know, I'm Darren Cook with the Whidbey Pickleball Association and an avid pickler. So thank you for the summary for all of you. I really can't add much to that. The takeaway is that we've tried everywhere. I mean, I've talked to the Blue Fox Drive-In, I've talked to the Pickle Barn. We're trying too. My point is, we're trying also from our end. How do we improve the situation? And the situation is, we need courts now. We don't have any, as you know. So before I get into that a little bit about the ask at Fort Nugent, I do want to thank Brian and his group for all the hard work that they're doing, and we recognize that. And we can't wait for those courts to be done. And we know that it is a process, and we trust the process, and we know those courts are going to arrive. The thing is, I don't know, I'm a layperson, but I'm thinking it's going to be a couple of years before you get all the grants and we get the fundraising and you get it built. And I'm thinking, I'm optimistic to think, in my own mind, I want to be corrected if I'm wrong here, but I think it's going to be 2 years before we can play on that. So what do we do between now and 2 years from now when we don't have any courts in the city? And I think the solution is that the best solution here is Fort Nugent. It will be 3 courts. I'd love to have 6. I trust me, there is a demand for more than 6 courts. So why does this work? Well, because we're going to find out when these beautiful 8 courts are done, you're going to find out they're too full. We are going to find that out. I am absolutely convinced of it. So 3 more at the same location, I think, is a great use of resources. You've got bathrooms, you've got parking, it's all set up. So the ask here today, as strongly and as politely as I can do it, is we need that court dedicated to pickleball. We need permanent nets. We need the hoops to go. And I say that with the knowledge that there's 4 other parks in this city besides that one to play basketball at. You can play basketball in a lot of different places in this great town, but there is not one place that the city provides that you can play pickleball. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Hey, Alan Wynn, and I'm new to pickleball. And I guess I'm pretty floored with the sport because it's intergenerational. And I think it's absolutely marvelous. When you see 60-somethings, 70-somethings playing with teenagers, playing with young children, it's just marvelous. We had an intergenerational pickleball playing experience recently where we had extended family there, and we had all ages there. And it's just wonderful. It's heartwarming. It brings the community together. And the enthusiasm that I'm finding from the people that are playing the sport and interested in the sport and are trying to bring it into the city, that it's marvelous. It's healthy for our community. It's healthy for our people who live here. And I think it's where the future is going. With a lot of these resources, I think that's something that needs to be reconsidered. It's something for everyone. And how many sports do we have out there that are for everyone? And it truly is. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Hello. So I started playing pickleball because I couldn't play soccer anymore. I got pregnant.
Could you state your name?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm Yelsi Canales.
Thank you.
I got pregnant. Yeah, I played all the way until I was 9 months pregnant with my young people that I play with and with my old people. You know, I love them. They're 80. They're my best friends. Anyways, after that, my husband got deployed. The whole summer, pickleball saved me. I played out there, from 12 all the way to 7. I just took lunch for the kids, Happy Meals and stuff. And my knees hurt really bad because the courts are so bad. They really hurt. New pickleball courts would be awesome. Yeah, we all play together, young and old. We love each other, so yeah. Pregnant too.
Thank you.
I got something a little prepared here. Good morning. My name is Chief Warrant Officer Chris Granger, serving on active duty. I'm here to ask for permanent pickleball courts. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America, with over 13 million players nationwide. It's played by kids, families, retirees, and military members alike. It builds health, connection, and community. But our courts are run down, as you heard DLC talk about. They're cracked, they're unsafe. Root growth has lifted the pavement, creating real hazards, especially for seniors and children. Temporary paint lines on tennis and basketball courts don't fix the problems. They'll just create more conflict. Permanent courts are a safe, lasting investment. They give residents reliable places to play, attract tournaments that boost our local economy, and strengthen ties between military families and this city. Pickleball isn't a fad. It's here to stay. Let's build something lasting. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have anyone else present who would like to speak about pickleball?
Darren didn't say exactly what we're supposed to say. I'm Robert Custer. I'm a temporary resident up here. We bought a condo in Oak Harbor 10 years ago, and we spend 4 to 5 months up here every summer. I've actually been in Oak Harbor a while. My dad was stationed here, and it was our favorite duty station. And I went to 4th and 5th grade at Clover Valley Elementary School, for those of the people who can remember that. I've been playing racket sports for 60 plus years. I was captain of the tennis team and #1 on the squash team in the Division I school. And I played in the NCAA tennis tournament a long time ago, back with the wooden rackets. I started playing pickleball actually in Oak Harbor because I came up here and there was no racquetball. And that was 6 years ago. When I went back to Corona, there wasn't any pickleball at all then. But 3 years ago, they've got 10 courts. They got 10 courts in finally. And Saturday mornings, we've got 60 plus people, or we've got 100 plus people trying to play pickleball on those courts. They're adding 12 more. And we've got usually the weekdays, we've got 50 to 60 people waiting at the courts. Up here, it's a different story because there aren't any courts other than some that need a little bit of work. pickleball is really a great sport. I don't play tennis anymore because my serve is gone. And it's hard to play that. As I mentioned, it's a great sport for all ages. The number one group now playing pickleball is 25 to 34. And number two is 65 plus, and number three is 18 to 23-year-olds. It's just booming in the colleges. The last time I was back at the Naval Academy, they had 16 pickleball courts that were temporary courts that they could roll down on these tennis courts, and there were a lot of people out there playing. It's great, as mentioned before, you can play for great many generations. This last Thursday, I played with James, who's turning 80 this year. I'm 76, and we were playing two people, I think Yelsey was one of them, who were much younger, much quicker, and we were absolutely competitive. You don't find that in tennis. You don't find that in racquetball. You don't find that in any other sports. Back in Corona, we've got people playing from 12 to 82 frequently. And the 12-year-old, he hasn't got the reach yet, but he can play with all of us. I just really would like to see some courts up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else present?
I'm London Cook, and I want to thank the city for opening the venue to the community so we can kind of give feedback. But don't have a lot to say. I know a lot of people that go to Anacortes or Mount Vernon from Oak Harbor to play pickleball because the facilities are nicer and because they can get more games in because they're not as busy. I would like to see permanent courts at Fort Nugent, and I know that's on the docket in the future, but I would like to see them sooner than the big project. And so I'm on board with the basketball court there being refitted. I guess my takeaway is Fort Nugent is an impressive facility, right? The city has put a lot of work into that. It brings people from off the island. It's a great business card for the city of Oak Harbor. Rotary Park is not that. That isn't the goal of Rotary Park, right? Rotary Park's in a limbo of it doesn't belong to the city, it belongs to the school district. You know, we're making do now, but as other people have pointed out, there are liability risks there with the courts, the lack of bathrooms, the lack of parking. It's just not meant to be a pickleball court. Fort Nugent has the parking, has the bathrooms, has the facilities, and I think it would be a great fit, and I'd like to see it happen sooner rather than later. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to? Okay.
I'm one of those old guys you're talking about. My wife and I have lived here since 1977. We were part of the tennis group.
Could you state your name, please? I'm sorry. Could you state your name, please?
Richard Dodd.
Thank
I'm
you.
retired Navy. We were here as part of the tennis group early on. Some of you might remember Dr. Henninger, who helped promote tennis here in Oak Harbor. And that was a great start for us in tennis-type sports, racket-type sports. We live here 8 months out of the year, in Florida 4 months out of the year. And I want to talk about that just for a minute because that's kind of important to tell you the popularity of the sport. It's unbelievable. In the Villages, where I live in Florida, you may have heard of the place. It's very large, 160,000 people in the community. We have 260 pickleball courts dedicated. They have a volunteer group there that helps train and promote pickleball. I was the director of training for 5 years. We had 60 instructors, all volunteers. None of us got paid. In my last year that I was there as a director of training, we trained 6,400 people that year. It's huge. And these people are all 55 and older. They're not youngsters. And they love it. They just love it. It's going to grow everywhere. It's going to grow here. And the fact that this community's got some leadership now and a pickleball association to help grow that is really going to help the city, advise the city on how that should go. I'd really recommend you spend some time on that and promote pickleball here. It is going to be a very popular thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak on pickleball? Okay. Seeing none, we will go to comments from our commissioners. Does anyone have a comment or question? Yeah.
Brian, can you bring up the images I sent you? Just so everybody knows what we're looking at, what it looks like. Some people may not know.
What do you want to pull up first? What do you want me to pull up first?
It doesn't matter. Okay.
Well, I have the court line out, or the pictures of Windjammer, or the pictures of Fort Nugent.
We'll just do the two Windjammer now, which is the tournament from a week ago, a basketball tournament, and also the hand drawing. So this was a week ago Saturday, and it just warms my heart to see that usage on those courts. I'm an old basketball player, and I love seeing our public facilities being used like this. Unfortunately, this is one day a year. Literally, this is one day a year. Somebody took it upon themselves. I talked to the guy, the organizer, and he started this some years ago. And so there are teams here from Anacortes, there are teams here from Bremerton. So they drew people from outside our own community and gave them, a good day. You can see families are sitting around, and that's great. I'd like to see this in all of our facilities. Unfortunately, really, this is a one day a year kind of a thing. There are people that use those courts, and a lot of people use it just for shooting around. Some people use it as an adjunct to the party site on the gazebo over there. They're having birthday parties or whatever. Kids will filter over and use the hard court for riding tricycles or drawing on the court or whatever. So they get some use, but it's not regular for basketball, and it's not heavy by any means. Can you go to the drawing? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is my rude sketch. Not very professional by today's standards, but it shows the two courts that are currently there. And then I measured out that we could get 3 courts on one of those basketball courts. There would need to be a fence between the 2 basketball courts, the dotted line, or some kind of a barrier to keep pickleballs from going onto the basketball court and vice versa. And the conception that we had, or perception that we had, is that these would be lined but not netted. So people could bring their own nets and set them up when they wanted to, probably on a first come, first served basis. So there wouldn't have to be any change to basketball there. You still hold the big event like they did a week and a half ago and use both courts. So that's kind of the way we were thinking. Then we took a look, as I mentioned, at Fort Nugent. So if you can bring those up, Brian. So this is a Fort Nugent court for people that may not have seen it before. You can see that you can hardly find any court lines on there because they're so faded. I don't know how much use this court gets. Brandon, can you weigh in? You folks are around there. Brandon is the parks manager.
I don't have a good idea of how that one is used. I see a lot of people shooting down at the Windjammer ones in really odd hours. Those seem to be really used kind of sporadically. I can't remember the last time that I've been up at Fort Nugent and just randomly come across people on the basketball court.
Okay, thank you.
I can say I have daughters that actually play soccer, so I'm there probably 5, sometimes 6 days a week, and it's pretty heavily used during the evening by a lot of siblings or parents, or especially on the weekends, visiting teams and things. So I can say in the evening hours it is pretty heavily used by both basketball and some of our cheerleaders for our soccer, for our football
Are they
program.
playing games, or are they mostly shooting around?
I would say the majority of it's basketball, but like I said, our cheerleaders do also use those courts as kind of practice and then warm up prior to
okay.
the games on Saturday.
I can also comment that on Tom, because being out there as much as I am for disc golf, I'm at the weird hours too. And I see a lot of people, I see 1-on-1, 2-on-2, half court mostly. I hardly ever see people running full court games there. A lot of shooting around. Definitely Windjammer sees far more pickup and drop in actual full-on games. Does it get used? Yeah, it gets used. I'm out there in the evenings. That's when we run our leagues and stuff a lot of times is after work. And so you'll see people going over there after work and shooting hoops and stuff. So it does get used. Yeah, it's infrequent. And that's sort of the nature, I think, of basketball in, side parks in suburbs right now. Most people would rather play inside, just simply because, asphalt's nicer than concrete for playing on, but there's a wear and tear that takes on your body too. I played a lot of basketball, a lot of those street games and tournaments and stuff, and Windjammer facility is definitely better than this one for it, from backboards and everything. That said, this does get used, and it's the only basketball hoop really on, southwest side of town. The only other one that has one, I think, is like Lewick Park, and that thing is mangled and bent, and the court is sloped towards the pump house and everything else. So I don't know what we want to do with that, but that's just some data. Anecdotal.
Thanks. So Darren and I went up, again, I was pretty pessimistic, but we went up and actually got the measure tape out and ran it the length of the court and the width of the court. And you can comfortably fit 3 pickleball courts going cross-court from the basketball court. His proposal for permanent nets, which I personally agree with, when we had our subcommittee meeting, I was actually leaning more towards bring your own net, just put the lines down and left the facility open for other uses. But it really doesn't do the trick. There are groups of people that play together that would be fine for. And these people know who they are. There's a group that plays on Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, and they're a regular group. They would probably buy a net and they'd probably go and play as a group. There's afternoon groups that Darren plays with and Yelsey plays with and the rest of you that would probably do the same thing. But it takes away the impromptu wonderfulness of the sport, which is people just go by individually or maybe with their friend and they get into pickup games. And that's a lot of value there. So I think we'd be giving that up. We'd only be meeting half of our need if you had to bring your own net. So I'll keep talking to you so you can jump in here in a minute, just give my other thoughts. If you could show the other slide for that court. Okay, so one of the other nice things about this court, and the same actually at Windjammer, is that the court is surrounded by grass. So you hit a ball off the court, it's probably not going to go very far. If you've ever been to Rotary, which I'm sure you all have, you can chase a ball for a long way. In fact, you can lose a ball, and people go running around saying, anybody have a ball? It says Tom on it. So here, with the exception, this is a dip that goes down on the right-hand side there. It doesn't look very severe in this picture, but it is a little bit more significant in reality. So I think what makes this option good is, one, you really just need to put the lines down, put the nets in the posts, and you're ready to go. Take the basketball hoops out, and you're ready to go. But along this back edge, you would probably want to consider, it may not be mandatory, that you put some kind of a barrier there so balls don't go down into that drench area. And I imagine if it rains for a few days, it probably gets pretty wet down there. But other than that, it's ready to go. Take the basketball hoops out, paint the lines, put the nets up, and you're going to have a facility that we can use until we get the better facility. And Darren mentioned that even when the new facility goes in, those 3 courts, this is a long-term investment. I mean, this isn't something we're just doing for the summer or just for this year. They'll still be there, and they can augment the 8 courts that are going in. And that helps with a lot of it helps with tennis lessons and clinics and tournaments. And it would be something that we didn't envision before, but you've heard Tom mentioned, and the gentleman from Florida mentioned, that it's like you can't have enough pickleball courts. So I think our 8-court project is great, but I do think that down the line we're going to find 8 more is probably necessary. Just as a side, Yelsey, if you don't mind mentioning you, her mother-in-law was instrumental in Grand Junction, Colorado, and they were at this point a number of years ago, just trying to get something started. And Darren mentioned that he talked to her a few days ago, and she said they now have 40 courts, is that right? 40 courts, in from nothing to 40 courts, because they got their grant, they built so many, they went out for another grant, they built more, and now they've got, a thriving community.
They're not enough. They're always full. Always.
It's always full, the 40 courts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open mornings and nights. It's always full.
Yeah. So I think even though the 8-court project looks fantastic and looks like our dream, it really may not be enough in years to come. So I just wanted, that's my comments on endorsing Darren's proposal to use this site. And then some of you had mentioned really the premier basketball court, outdoor courts for the city are down at Windjammer anyway.
So I've been thinking about this pretty extensively for quite a while, as it's kind of our next thing that's up and coming, or at least it seems to be. We're getting, and what I'm struggling with is our sense of urgency. I'm trying to figure out what exactly the sense of urgency is to do this. Now, I say that not saying that I don't think that it is urgent. Those courts at Rotary are garbage. They were garbage when I was a kid, and we had them for tennis courts. This is in the 80s and early 90s, okay? They were terrible then. They were ankle breakers then. There used to be basketball hoops on there and everything else. You'd hit a ball with topspin, and all of a sudden it had backspin because the roots were so bad. How does that even happen? I don't know, but it did. Things would go jumping over the fence. You think chasing the pickleball was bad there? We'd have the tennis balls would end up on Highway 20. So I totally understand that those courts are terrible. I don't want to put any money in those courts. I think we've said that getting into these competing interests with financing is just terrible. Having something that we can manage and control is key. Now I'm trying to figure out what and how soon and who pays the cost for it. And by the cost, I mean, if we take an amenity away, there is a physical cost to that, but there's also an emotional cost to that. For those of you who have been in Oak Harbor a long time, you understand what happens when things get taken away here. Whether it's a windmill or a tree or a basketball hoop or Holland Gardens or whatever it might be. There is an emotional attachment to almost every rock, pebble, acorn, oak leaf in this town. That's great that people care. But what happens with that care is a whole lot of negativity. And that's what we're trying to overcome here in the Parks Department, is we're trying to work really hard to turn around all of the negativity that gets said about when change happens here into positive action. I'm sensitive in that regard to taking away an amenity for somebody in order to provide an amenity for somebody else. Now, we know that the big sports are struggling as far as having consistent enrollment and play. We know that there's safety issues that parents feel about having kids go over to the park and shoot hoops like they did when I was a kid and when some of you were a kid. Those days seem to be gone, especially for younger ones who would first cut their teeth shooting hoops at a park and be gone all day with their basketball. That doesn't happen. Pickup baseball games don't happen in the same way they used to. There's safety issues and the world has changed. And that affects the way we see some of these big 3 or even big 5 sports happen. So along come some of these multi-generational sports like pickleball. I love pickleball. I played pickleball 25 years ago when nobody played pickleball. So I quit playing pickleball. But I played tennis. I played a lot of racket sports. They're all fantastic. And what I loved about them was the characters you got to meet along the way. We talked about Doc, and his efforts with, I got to play tennis with Doc so many times, and he was very helpful for me, Doc Henninger, teaching me about the game when I was younger, and it increased the enjoyment. There was built-in mentors by some of these pickup tennis things that happen along the way, and that's the fun you can have across the net. And to that end, I really do have a passion for multi-generational, intergenerational, and co-ed types of sports. One of my passions is disc golf, and it's because of that very reason. I can do it with my kids, and I can do it like I did yesterday with a guy in his 70s who just got done with spinal surgery, right? He's back out there again, and that's fun for me. I disc golf with people from 4 to 84, and pickleballs is the same way. I say all that to say we have to do something in trying to figure out what that something is, and how do we make sure that the ads that we do are so positive that any losses, because in this case somebody's going to lose something, are so outweighed that we can keep the ball rolling forward. Right now here what we've been focusing on is a whole lot of new stuff, activating unused parks, trying to get some new types of playgrounds put in, and a variety of stuff. It's all new, it's all engaging, it's all innovative, and it should all be positive. It's taking stuff that we already had and adding to it. This will be one of the things that we're going to want to add something, and it's going to take away. Even the 8-court pickleball facility is going to take away. The disc golf course will go away in its current iteration in order for that to happen, and that's totally fine. There's another one opening up. Something has to give. Okay, it'll also take away some of that green space that families use. Again, it's a greater good, and that's exciting. Do we feel the same way about basketball? And do we have a message for those people who use those basketball courts to say, there is loss here, but there's also gain? And that's what we need to figure out. What is the gain for the people who don't play pickleball but play basketball, besides inviting them, providing them with lessons, being willing to coach and engage them into that community? Is there something that we can, or how do we market this to that community who relies on that park and that amenity as their way of stress relief and community engagement in the same way that you rely on pickleball? And that's what I'm trying to figure out here. I don't like the Windjammer project as much as I like the Fort Nugent project, and the reason I like the Fort Nugent project, and I've said this before, is because it puts the amenity in the same spot that we're hoping to build an attraction. Okay, and I like having, if you want to play pickleball, here's the sign. The sign doesn't take you to 4 different spots. Your Google search doesn't take you to 6 different spots. It takes you to one place. You want to play pickleball? You go to Fort Nugent Park in Oak Harbor. That's where you go. It also, what I like about it is it helps neighbors begin to get used to the noise. Okay, 2 courts, 3 courts out there, they begin to get used to some of the noise that might happen there. Yes, it will be increased with 8 courts, but we start to test it out to make sure that the neighbors that are over there on Rosario Drive are going to be okay, and Ridgeway are going to be okay with it. That's great. That's a win. So I like all of those reasons for that. I just want to make sure that as we create a loss for one community, we find a way to also make sure that we're enhancing what they have so that their loss is still gained, so we don't create negativity. And we continue to do the positive work that we're doing of changing mindsets and hopefully changing people's hearts about not only parks and recreation, but about what the city is trying to do for the community to improve things and move forward. I hope that makes sense. Thanks for my long-winded comments.
Thanks, Eric. Vicki or Kim, did you have any comments?
I just had a question. As we're looking long-term to move pickleball to Fort Nugent, are we addressing parking there?
Well, now you've hit the elephant in the room. I mean, parking, we've talked about this many times, mostly me, talking about the safety issues with parking there. Yeah, it's going to be a trick, and it's only going to get more complicated eventually when the school district builds a school on the lower fields. And that's going to change a lot of things. But what it will change by having that there is it will change that it will no longer be a Saturday sports complex in the same way, because most of that will be gone. So what we can't do is answer a question into the unknowns, but we do know that there is going to be some challenges there. But what we learned, hopefully, from Fort Nugent will impact whatever we do going forward when we figure out long-term, what we're going to do for sports facilities and sports complex.
Yeah, I was just, if we could be more proactive about addressing what is already an issue.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, it has been looked at. When we were in the early design process, we looked at parking. There was even some parking changes that were kind of penciled in. Brian, you might recall this more than I, even to the point of opening up a new entrance to the parking lot on the upper side there and adding spaces. So it was addressed. It's not part of this project.
Yeah, exactly. So even though it's not part of this project, RWD, who we're working with on the designs, did draw up a reconfiguration of the parking to extend parking and also have an additional entry point there. We had also looked in the past at expanding the park and creating more parking along with that as well, and that's something we'll continue to look at.
Is there a place, and I know that we're now taking a park and bringing it closer and closer, but is there a place in Fort Nugent to have like a half court, a basketball net, so we're not taking everything away? Because I'm assuming most of these kids that are coming to play basketball live in the area. They're walking there. There's no place to safely walk from that area to another basketball court. So I'm just wondering if there's a space for, if you want to take the courts there and make them into pickleball courts, is there a place to have, just a half court?
Yeah, so we looked at several locations when we were evaluating sites for the pickleball project. We looked at different offerings, depending on the budget, do we put in one court, do we make it a multi-court facility? So there are several locations where we could put in additional courts, but you're still going to have to go through the whole process, right? So it still involves permitting, it still involves structural design and everything that goes along with building infrastructure. So it's not something that we can just snap our fingers and next week put in a half court or one court somewhere.
But I think that's a good question, though, because it's a consideration that we need to have when we're discussing shifting of priorities and changing amenities. We know it's going to go through the long, lengthy process that all city projects take. But is that something that we value as a community enough to want to do that? Do we want to look at, adding basketball there, removing, temporarily saying, hey, we're going to add pickleball because the demand is so crazy, but here's the 5-year plan for Fort Nugent? Or we see that we want to put something in a community park like Fireside and put a full court there in the green pitch that's there because that's underutilized park as far as green space. The only thing I think it gets used for really is the smallest of soccer teams practicing sometimes outside of the playground. So I think there's options, but having this mindset, I think is super important. I think it's super important for your community to think about as well, knowing that that's an olive branch, right? What can be given, what can be done in trade, what were you willing to work for and partner with the basketball community in order to allow this really essential and safety issue for a large thriving community to get what you need now so that everybody can eat later,
I can also add, we've always known that this would be a multi-phase project. When we evaluated the need for pickleball courts, we knew right away we would need many and probably at multiple sites. So when we did site evaluations, that was a big discussion point is, we're not going to be able to do a one and done. Even if we put in a 20-court facility, there's enough interest in the community, we'll probably, book that out and there'll still be demand. So we're going to have to do this in phases. And also there's consideration of what can the city do fiscally to build courts. How do we do that? And we knew we would really need a proof of concept, right? So something that was large enough to at least satiate some of the demand in a first effort, but also provide that proof of concept that, hey, we've built these courts, they're used all the time, very successful, here's how we're scheduling them. We see that there is more demand still, so we'll definitely go forward and build additional courts. And we have a couple of different planning efforts, both with the Parks and Recreation Open Space Master Plan, as well as the Recreation Center feasibility study that will also look at that need and where and how we could build additional facilities to meet it.
I have a few questions. So just for the record, the big pickleball court project, where exactly is the status on that, and what is your estimation of a timeline realistically?
So we probably have about a month left of that. Like I said, we just finished the permitting submittals for that and paid the fee, all the permitting fees. They were just completing the stormwater design. And so we're kind of, I would say we're like at 99% completion with the plans, right? So once that's all completed out, I imagine in October, with plans in hand, we'll want to go back to City Council in a workshop and discuss, okay, what's next steps here? So we had applied for grants in early 2024. We started working on late 2023 RCO grants, which is the Recreation Conservation Office for the state, in support of the pickleball courts. We actually had 2 grants we went after. We did not receive either of them. The state has shifted on a lot of that grant funding. We're waiting to see what this next round of grants is going to look like. That has not been released yet on what the schedule is. So we'll have a discussion with council on funding options for build out of the courts. We'll be shovel ready at that point. The project will be pretty competitive. And we're very hopeful and anticipate that we will be able to secure some grant funding for that. So that would look at a 2026 and then going into maybe 2027 possibly to build out those courts.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is that there's the desire for the permanent courts, which the city is working on, but we need a solution now. I agree with Eric. I'm not crazy about Windjammer, just because of the use that those courts get. Fort Nugent, I think makes sense to line those, but my question would be, what would be the cost to remove the basketball nets approximately, and lining that for pickleball and putting up nets and stuff? And is there an option for like retractable nets or temporary nets there to keep maybe one basketball hoop?
So we had a discussion a while back about the possibility of striping the Sumner Park tennis courts with pickleball lines, and possibly expanding those courts to allow some additional pickleball courts in there, expanding those courts by about 10 feet. So we had been working with a contractor, the same one we had worked with on estimates for the renovations of the Rotary Park School District's courts. And they were meeting with Sandra last week to get us those estimates. So this is a little bit of a different proposal, and we can still get those numbers. Requiring the removal of the basketball poles and installation of permanent net posts changes that configuration a bit. So that's going to require a little bit of asphalt work. The poles have to be set with concrete, not asphalt. So you have to kind of core that out and then put those in. If you have permanent posts, though, you're not going to be able to have it as a multi-use court because you have holes there, and you can put covers on it, but it still creates a bit of a tripping hazard if you want to use it for like a basketball or something like that. There might be other sports that you could use that would utilize that net, but I wouldn't use it anymore as a running back and forth kind of an activity.
Okay, so do we have just like a ballpark of what the cost might be to change that from a basketball court to the pickleball courts?
No, not yet, but we can get those estimates probably fairly quickly in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So we're looking at removal of the basketball poles, installation of nets, lining the courts. Do you feel like there needs to be fencing? I see
I'm
nods in the
seeing a lot of
crowd.
head nods. Do we need fencing there?
Just for the purposes of cost estimate.
It would be preferred. I think we should get cost estimate. Definitely should be. I'd say get a cost estimate on it.
Lighting?
I've got another question for you. To me, I'm not sure how, I don't know what the cost is, and I don't know what your capabilities are within your department. Is this something that has to go to city council? Do you have the budget and the authority to make this kind of a change at the department level?
No, I'm going to guess that the cost would need to go to city council, yeah.
Is there a cost threshold for what you can do or can't do?
Yeah, there is.
I want to comment again on the sensitivity to people that would be losing something, because I agree we're all a bit cautious in all of our deliberations. But I think we also have to look at it as a net positive, not a net negative, and that we want to get the best use and the most use out of what assets that we do have. And I think the pickleball option to basketball is a no-brainer in my mind, but it doesn't do away with sensitivity to people that would be losing something, even if it means they have to go further. And I appreciate your comment, looking back on my own childhood, as far as a neighborhood park where I could go down and play. But at the same time, times change. If you Google up tennis and basketball courts, or you ask Siri, there are article after article after article about how many tennis courts have been converted to pickleball courts, and for good reason. They get much more use.
Yeah, and please don't hear what I'm not saying when I say it'd be a lot. I think pickleball overall is absolutely a net gain, and it's not even close. I'm just sensitive to the response over loss. Like, you don't see people coming in here asking for more basketball courts and improvements to the basketball facilities, right? The passionate community just doesn't exist in the same way that it does for pickleball, and there's a reason for that. I'm only saying is that we're habituated to a certain way of, let's call it grieving the loss of certain things around here that is really borderline toxic, and that's what we're trying to just change. So even though I think pickleball would be immeasurably a gain and positive, I'm only saying that we've been doing a lot of work, and Brian's presence here alone has done a lot of work to help move that in that way, and I just want to make sure that we're sensitive to not taking steps back in that area, and that we're aware of that. That's all. But pickleball is, like I said, it's a no-brainer for me. It's just figuring out how, not that it's justified.
And Carrie, if I may, kind of to that point, when we were looking at Sumner Park for making that a multi-use court with pickleball, we suddenly we didn't feel like the tennis courts were being used very often, but suddenly we had the whole tennis community come out of the woodwork, making comments on that, right? So we do definitely want to make sure that we provide enough opportunity to hear from everyone in the community. Like I said, I don't think the basketball players are quite as organized with associations or whatnot, but they are out there, and I think it'd be good to hear from them their thoughts on it.
So do you need a motion from us at this point for anything, or what are our next steps?
If you want to pass a motion of what you would like to kind of see the department work towards. We've talked about several different options. We were starting to go one way, and now we're kind of being presented with a different direction here in a different location. So, if you want to give us your thoughts, we'll take that, and then we can provide those comments to council when and if we go forward with something that will require a budget appropriation.
I'd like to make a motion then to the city would explore converting the basketball court at Fort Nugent Park into a 3-court pickleball court with permanent pole installations and lining.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Question. Are you proposing that we do it, or are you proposing we look at it further?
I'm proposing that we look at it further, because without knowing what it's going to cost, we can't really make a motion on doing the work. So we need to empower staff, I think, or have a motion to say that we want staff to go ahead and look at this so that we can get the numbers so that we know what it's actually going to cost. I think that's fiscally responsible to do it in steps.
Brian, if I'm understanding correctly, you said that you would have likely in October the plans ready for the Fort Nugent project, and you'd be meeting with city council at a workshop about funding. Would that be the time that you'd be discussing this?
Possibly, yeah. I think we could try and get some numbers together so we can propose some options. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think the motion then would be, as Eric said, just for Brian to get those estimates and explore that option with city council.
Would we include parking in that, Eric?
No, that would be definitely another phase project. We're not ready to take that on. The cost would balloon so bad that it would be cost prohibitive, and then we'd have twice as many pickleballers saying win. And, I don't think that's, I mean, continue to have an eye towards parking improvements there, but let's put that as a separate project so we don't get project inflation.
And I think that is kind of rolled into the bigger pickleball project scope. So for these purposes, I don't think we need to include that.
I mean, my motion is just simply so we can begin to gather the necessary resources and costs so that we can make an informed and educated decision and compare it, I think, versus, seeing it as a prequel stage, I guess, to the stage of doing the 8-court complex, which then the next stage after that would probably be improving the parking and maybe that opening up that new entrance and all of those things. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Something quick and easy and affordable. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Can you?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you, everybody who came to speak on pickleball. We really appreciate your time. Our next discussion item is subcommittee updates. Did you have any other updates from the facilities?
Yeah, we got one more update. Let me just grab those notes again real quick. All right, so really the last thing, or the other portion of our conversation was we talked about, we had a little conversation in regards to the feasibility study, which is sort of in our subcommittee, but it's also in the other committee that's doing that as well. And then the last conversation we had was just about how Brian is working with both the city and the county on comprehensive plans, and we talked about the relationship between city and county in regards to that and how those things work out as a point of information as well as knowledge for any strategic game planning going forward. Tom, do you have something else? Oh, and then there's just a little bit of update about what's going on too out at Freedom Park. The staff has been working really hard clearing the brush and invasives out there for the disc golf course and the trails. They're doing a great job, and that's continuing to move forward, and that's really exciting. So progress is still being made. Credit to Brandon and Bob and the rest of the staff for doing some really good work out there. It's really exciting, and can't wait for y'all to see it.
I'd like to ditto that comment. Eric brought me out a week or two ago, so that's the first time I've seen it in a while. And it's really a massive project, and kudos to you and your staff, Brandon, for the work they've already done, and good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you. All right, so our programs and events meeting, we went over Camp Windjammer was very successful for its first year. It sounds like the kids and the families are all extremely pleased with how that went. The only hiccup was getting enough staff, so that will be something to work on for next year. We also are looking for more fitness instructors for the center, so just putting that out there. That can be found on our website, I believe, the job listing. We discussed our activity guide that is now out for fall. That's been sent to all of the homes in 98277. We also have a Harvest at the Harbor event coming up on September 13th, 11 to 2 o'clock. It's going to be down at the marina. There will be boat tours, live music, crafts, a rain garter regatta, rain gutter regatta, I'm sorry. Photo booth, games, food trucks, lots of fun. So we welcome everybody to come enjoy that. And then as far as parks and playgrounds, Brian met with Big Brothers Big Sisters looking at the building since they are going to be shutting down. It's a pretty small space in there, so the future of that building is kind of a question mark at the moment. We met with Aaron about a community garden, and I know Brian will be talking a little bit about that in his updates as well. Vicki, did you have anything to add?
Well, it's a little further, I think, down the line, but the resource fair that's going to be coming up soon at the center, that was something else that we spoke about.
Okay, any questions, comments from anybody? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our Parks and Recreation Director updates.
Thank you. So as was mentioned, we did meet with Aaron with the Garden Club to talk about the community garden concept at Holland Gardens, which is generally located adjacent to Neal Park off of 6th and 4th Avenue. And I will pull up image here, and I'll let Brandon narrate while I navigate the slides here.
Okay. So, whenever he gets it up, I can explain what we've got on the slides. Okay, so this is an overview of the site. This is Neal Park, and the outline is an approximate area of the proposed community gardens. You'll see a little notch out there up by the parking lot. That is proposed for a shed for the community garden, and then I've placed beds and graph paper on another slide. Let's do the... Yeah, I'd do that one, yeah. So this is kind of what I penciled out for an approximate area. This is the real small grid paper is 2 feet. The big, large squares that you can kind of vaguely see are 20 feet. So this has an ADA accessible beds on the one side and just a standard raised bed on the other side. There's a 12-foot, this was all just really rough with the approximate area that I took off of GIS maps, and then when I went out there, it worked, but we can tweak this. There are 2 Gary oak trees in there that we'll have to work around. I think that would be a great area to open it up, is just right in between those 2 Gary oaks, and that's just an entrance to the one side. But that's what I've kind of put out there for right now as an approximate. Area of the raised beds, we would put irrigation that we would bring from the Holland windmill that we'll have to dig in, and then I think we should do an entrance on both sides so that it's accessible from both sides. But that is kind of my just rudimentary plan.
There was a alternative site location that we're also looking at on the other side of the park. If I can pull it up here, give you a little wider angle of the park. So Neal Garden or Neal Park is generally this rectangular portion. What we refer to as Holland Gardens is this portion over here in the lower right-hand corner, and utilizing a space over here possibly as the garden area is something else we have looked at and might continue to look at. So those are kind of the concept locations of the site. We have a draft of what a lease agreement would look like, and rules and regulations for a garden site. The lease would be a no cost. Basically, we would ask the community to form a nonprofit board that would oversee the administration of the gardens, and the city would just lease or have a use agreement of that space with that organization, and be a partner in maintaining the site. The city would provide the infrastructure, the build out of it, as well as the maintenance and irrigation of the infrastructure itself. And then the plots would be individually leased out to community members. I've seen different formats for what that looks like. That could either be a service project in lieu of a fee, or people can pay a fee in lieu of the service project hours. That board would have to figure out how they wanted to do that. But there would be a set of rules that they would have to maintain, and we would ask that all of the participants do put in some service hours into some of the more general upkeep of the gardens themselves. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I probably missed it, but what was the genesis of this project? Is it the garden club?
Well, we know that the garden club had discussions about doing a new community garden. We've also had discussions around the city's permaculture food forest and potential projects on that site that's adjacent to the Hal O'Malley Park. If that project were to go forward and the city were to do a partial land swap, a portion of those gardens would go away. And that's really what I think kicked off the discussion around if that were to happen and we would need to relocate some kind of a community garden, well, what would that look like? Would we change it? Where would the location be? And so I guess those two alignments kind of met and moved the discussions forward.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I really like the design and having it over off the parking lot, having that shed there. I like that area. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's a more underutilized park, and we've recognized that. That was the original site of the pickleball courts way back in the day when the city first budgeted some money towards a build out of pickleball courts. And it's definitely a future site for renovations. This would be a good first step in providing more activation in that area.
I know we have Aaron here. Was there any comments that you'd like to make?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Erin Neal, and a member of the Oak Harbor Garden Club. Monica Case is also a member of Oak Harbor Garden Club here today. Thank you, Brian, Brandon, and Carrie for meeting with me last Friday. And yeah, my main ask is that this project be prioritized. Just building off of pickleball, it's an intergenerational accessible option to build community, and many other cities have it, and I think we can do it, and I think there will be a huge demand for it. We talked about possibility for growth, and we were thinking, I think the updated one that Brandon just had was 46 plots, so 46 to 60 to start, but there may be room to grow if we continue going west, because we do have a large grassy area, and continue it, I guess it would be south towards Holland Garden as well. So thank you for your time, and please prioritize this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. Do you need anything from us at this point for this project?
Not at this point. We're working with the Garden Club on what the generation of that oversight board might look like, as well as we'll continue to kind of refine some of those conceptual plans, what a lease agreement would look like. And I think when we're ready to put the ink to the paper on those things and have that oversight board formed and are ready to look at doing that agreement, we'll bring back all this back to the commission then as a full presentation with a ask for a motion before it goes to council.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. Sorry, I've got too many papers. Okay, so then we will move on to member comments. Were there any other comments from any of our members, commissioners? Go ahead, Tom.
It could be in my imagination, but it appears to me that the condition of the parks and the turf management has gone up drastically, at least the parks that I attend. So things are looking really good. Thanks.
Kim, did you have any comments? Vicki? No. Okay. All right, we will move on then to determination of future agenda items. Do we have anything at this point?
Well, pickleball, because I think that's on there. And then I don't know the timeline with the gardens and how quickly we can get that done, but maybe let's do an update on that and where we're at.
Any other items?
Refresh my memory. Where are we on the inclusive playground? We have money, or we're looking for grant money for the design?
We are still looking for grant money. Brian, do you have an update on the RFP for design?
Yeah, so we have an RFP that has been ready for a while now. We need to have a discussion with council, basically, to see if we are ready to go forward on this. We don't have a funding match. We have city funds allocated and appropriated for both the design as well as the build out and construction of the playground, but we don't have a match yet for it. So we're kind of waiting to see what RCO is going to come out with. And as soon as we know that, we'll probably pull the trigger on getting everything all together, because we'll want to have design and permitting in hand when we go out for grants.
So that would be an RCO grant also for the design of the...
Yeah, mainly that's what we're looking at. We're trying to find and see what other grants are available. Because there is a good connection with the Navy, that this is a good Navy partnership project as well, but they're also pretty limited on what funding they have also. So it's a timing thing. We want to be careful. We don't want to get all the permits all set up and then we're going to go past the permit construction date by the time we're ready to build out. So.
Okay, another agenda item would be also an update on the feasibility study for the recreation center, and hopefully by the next meeting, Dunn can present something and introduce themselves to the group and what their plan is.
Yeah, I can give a quick update on that. So I finished negotiations with them. They have submitted their edits to the professional service agreement, and I just sent that on to our legal team and Sandra this morning. So they'll look at that and provide any feedback or comments in response to their suggested edits. And once everyone has agreed on everything, then we'll take that to council for approval. And once we have that in hand, then probably at the next meeting after that, we'll have them come and meet with you guys.
Real quick, back to the playground. The RCO, when will we know what's available?
Soon, I hope.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't released it yet. Usually they do early fall, so
Okay.
hopefully in the next month.
Okay. All right. Any other items for our next agenda? Okay, I am.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead. Yeah.
Not on the agenda, and I don't know if we can back up.
It's okay. Go ahead.
As far as the 2 open positions go, where are we on that? Do we know?
We had one additional applicant that has been interviewed. I don't believe we've had any other applications come in.
Correct, yeah. So we've interviewed one applicant, and that recommendation has gone to the mayor. I think they do them in batches, so they bring them up to council for appointment all at one time. I'm not sure when the next one will be that they'll do that. I'll check with Mikhail, but we haven't received any additional applications that I know of. So again, if you know someone that might be interested, and I hear a lot of people that, you know, have interests in parks and recreation initiatives, invite them to apply.
Okay. Any other comments, items? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.